as Jackie mentioned, starting with the Oakland Summit, we realized as the CNU interdisciplinary group that we could really make our projects work if we could change the standards. So as I mentioned, our interdisciplinary group is made up of people who are out there trying to get projects done. And where they get stopped most frequently is with the public works departments in various jurisdictions because the streets can't be narrow enough or designed with the network that we would like. So we can't change our street centers, we can't really implement urbanism. And the charter, which is now CNU charter, which there's a copy in your folder, now almost 20 plus years old, is something that supports our work at every level. We have, at the regional, city, and town level, the charter actually says the physical organization of the region should be supported by regular transportation alternatives that reduce dependence upon the automobile. The neighborhood, district, and corridor level, neighborhoods should be compact, pedestrian-friendly, and mixed use. At the neighborhood, district, and corridor level, we should have interconnected networks of streets that encourage walking, reduce the number and length of automobile trips. And at the block, street, building level, the primary task of all urban architecture and landscape design is the physical definition of streets and public spaces as places of shared use, and that we should adequately accommodate automobiles and respect the pedestrian as well as the form of public space. So given that this charter was written by a group of people over 20 years ago, and it's still very much relevant to the work that we're doing as significant. Streets and squares should be safe, comfortable, and interesting to the pedestrian and encourage walking.
The issue of target speeds and design speeds, and there's a whole long presentation that I'm not going to get into in this discussion because it's just wrong. So I've talked about some of the upcoming things, including the network, the summit in charge of the network, and the need for focus on local streets and alleys. To some extent, the CNU is tackling this issue with they just got a grant from EPA that is looking at emergency vehicles, emergency access, and how to treat those in a design context. Lucy, my colleague from New England, will talk about some of the issues of modeling that we really didn't deal with in this document because it's another big issue. But she's going to talk about some of the ways that contemporary modeling approaches can be used in a more urban-sensitive ways. As to the issue of green streets, I think that is an initiative that needs an initiative is needed in that area. ITE being a partner of CNU was a very, very important part of developing this document. It gave it credibility that we would not have had otherwise with engineers. And so a lot of towns and cities and even states are looking towards this document as to modify their approaches. And I'm not sure if it's actually worked its way yet into practice, but there are a lot of places that are looking at changing.
How do you approach here with managing the streets? Really about changing what we had before, which was very much prescriptive guidance. It was guidance that was very strongly based on a functional classification. And guidance that we used again and again, just referring to the tables in the book, and not actually thinking about what they were doing. And the new manual is very different. It's actually proving to be quite confusing to some people, which is deliberate, because it needs people to go think about streets, to understand them. And really, already I think it's having a lot of success in terms of getting the debate for streets going and getting people thinking a lot more about creating better places. I think it's worth noting that before we had this raft of guidance and raft of rules, we actually had a situation where drivers had to respect each other on the street. And here are drivers in Hanway respecting each other, respecting pedestrians, respecting people on motorcycles, respecting people in cars. Here are people respecting each other in downtown New Delhi. romantic vision. There's one